Very ad hoc. I liked very when you said that maybe in 100 years or so, people will look back on the idea of nation states and they'll say, "Well, that was a strange thing, wasn't it?" Yeah, I think so. Now I don't know when, because R. Buckminster Fuller was famous for saying that by the year 2000 there would be no politics. Like politics as we know it would die out by that time. And obviously it's 2007, and plenty of politics around. So I don't know when everything's going to happen, but even politics is changing. I've seen several candidates' videos on YouTube. I've seen this recent guy, James Kotecki, on YouTube, right? Who has been posting up for like 6 months, and he's already been featured on CNN and Fox News and a bunch of other. I mean, if you don't live in my country, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about, but you know what I mean. He's already been featured in major news outlets after 6 months of just talking about various candidates. Hey, things can happen pretty fast. Things are changing, and I don't know exactly how to be. I'm sure there'll be several bumps along the way, and all these other problems. But we can start moving things in this direction. We can start talking about stuff. We can start coming up with ideas of how things work, those basic humanitarian principles, and then how they apply to this and that, and doing each thing that we can along the way. So Joseph, not Joshua, Joseph, for instance, how do you feel about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? I'm sure plenty of people have asked you that question. So heck, you don't even have to respond if you don't want to. Beautiful thing about Enation, do what you like. Participate or not participate, completely according to the thing. But there's a topic we might talk about. And we might talk about, what's happening on each side of the conflict. And then we might say, okay, well, here's what we think should happen. Here's what various people ought to do. And here's what, And then we find ourselves working with other groups that already have these ideas. Another great thing about this whole ad hoc business is when you spontaneously run into other people who are doing the same thing. Kind of like when Perry announced this Enation idea, and I'm like, hey, I never had a name for it, but I was kind of thinking of that general idea, the de-sovereignization and all that. It's interesting. And then if for instance we're working on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, we might talk to the people at One Voice, which is a group trying to solve the conflict, and see what they have to say about it, And then, and any issue at all. We happen to run into other people who have been intelligently talking about this issue, and we think about their input, and maybe they officially become members of Enation, or maybe they're just members in spirit, because if you're talking to us, that kind of makes you a member in spirit, right? As long as you're not like a hater. And we get some input, and we get some, and we're all just reasonable, We get rid of the ego aspect, I think. If there's no top position for us to vie for, right? We're all just members of the Enation, and I'm sure some members will have more influence than others, because some members will deserve more influence than others, right? If someone says for something particularly intelligent, then everyone should go, wow, that was particularly intelligent. If someone says something stupid, wow, that was stupid, But nevertheless, officially, we're all just citizens, right? And if one of these intelligent people with some power, but only in the social sense, if he suddenly goes off his rocker and says all sorts of random crap, then we can just abandon his policies like that, right? Like that. As opposed to the current way things works, and if a guy's in charge and we think, okay, he's cool, we'll put him in power, and then, a month later you realize he's an idiot, and then, oh, well, we can't take him out of power until, a year from now, and the next yada yada, bureaucratic cycles, and, and all these other things that get in the way, and people vying for, a salary, we don't have salaries in our nation, not yet anyway. And if we did eventually pay people, we should pay people by donations only. And directly to that person. So if you like them and you have some money, we might set up a network, a PayPal type thing, or just use PayPal. That's another thing, being using everyone else's services, and not making our own unless we need it. And then you would send $1 to this person. 1,000 people will end up sending $1 to this one person. He gets $1,000 bonus from Enation, not from the treasurer of Enation, who might be corruptly influencing this guy or that guy or the other guy should get money or not get money, but by literally Enation. Individual people gave me money, or individual people gave me whatever stuff I needed. I don't know. If we keep working with this, it could get really interesting. I don't know how long it would take, but someday It may be like, hey, I need a ride to the airport, and I posted up on Enation, hey guys, can anybody give me a ride to the airport? And then someone would be like, oh yeah, I'm driving by, and I'm like, oh, okay, and then I hopefully don't get kidnapped or anything, and I get in the car and I go with it. And heck, if I did get kidnapped, then the Enation theoretically would be on my side, and they'd be like all looking for me or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Working together in crazy ad hoc ways. Maybe. maybe. But it starts with ideas. It starts with this dreaming stuff, and it starts with each of us doing whatever you can do whenever you can. No coercion with it, just like Wikipedia. Sometimes you go by and you see an article, you don't like it for some reason. If you feel like editing it, you can. If you don't feel like editing it, don't. We're living off of extras, I guess, of people having little time on their hands. I say, I guess I'll contribute. And then you contribute, and then you end up getting back so much more, And you can get back so much more even before you contribute. But if you've never participated in a single Enation discussion, someday you'll be able to go on and see what Enation thinks about various things, and that will educate you about morals. I'm not to say that, okay, this should be a philosophy group. We can talk about anything. But I think, morality and humanitarian principles and stuff, those are big things. Those are big important things. So we'll end up talking a lot about those. At least I think so. But once again, if I say this topic is important and the rest of Enation says no, we should talk about this, then they'll end up talking about this, and I'll be by myself talking about whatever I feel like talking about. And maybe that's okay. Maybe I'd be great talking, in my own little thing or whatever it is. And there goes back into the splintering again, and there goes back into each people doing another thing, and then you find that two different groups talking about two different things, and then they start asking each other questions, and they start working with each other. The great thing you should look up is called unconferencing. All right, you all know the idea of a conference. Well, this is an unconference, and everyone shows up, and there's no schedule, and you have a big board somewhere, and if you want to lead a talk about something, you just put up a name and the room where you're going to meet on the board. If you're doing this physically, you could do it on the digital world too. But if you're doing physically, then you just put it on the board and you're like, hammer up, I'm going to talk about, violence in modern culture or something in room 216 at 3 o'clock, and then at room 216 at 3 o'clock, somebody might show up and somebody might not. And if they do show up, then you can talk about it. And if you talk and you get off track, that's okay, because apparently if we all collectively got off track, it must be onto some interesting track that we got onto, right? So that's okay. And then, we'll talk about various things, and then some people will be in this discussion, then they'll walk over to this discussion, they'll be like, hey, that idea plus that idea equals this other idea, and then they'll get up on the board and like, hey guys, this other discussion, and then they'll start talking about that, and some people are all cross-pollinating things, and some people will just stay in one thing if it's really interesting, and some people will walk off by themselves and just kind of think for a few hours. Everyone doing whatever they can do, which just so happens to be whatever they want to do. I love that idea of it.